Hello, students. It's wonderful to be able to come back to you. Today, this is going to be the last video on the Darkling Thrush. And this one is a video which is going to be a little different because the last two videos that I had given were line by line explanations of the whole poem. Now, this one is going to deal with the relevance of the title of the poem, which is very important, and further discussions. All right, so let's start. Now, first, let me give you some important data regarding the poem, which is going to help you understand the poem better. Okay, now this poem was written by Thomas Hardy, we all know, and when he was writing this poem, it was 1900, and it was in the month of December. Now, you know, I have told you earlier also that the poem was written when one century just passed by and another century is coming. So it was written at that point of time. And the whole poem is about the mood of the poet. He is very pessimistic here. And the poem starts in a very negative way and ends in the same tone also. So there is an underlying pessimism which is going throughout the poem. And you must remember that when Hardy was writing, he was 60 years of age. All right. So in those times when Hardy was writing, he is a British writer. So at that time, 60 is quite an old age. And it is very difficult for a person of such an age. This is an old age. At that time, people used to have less life expectancy. So those times, 60 years is quite old. And you must understand that people of such an age is not very used to change. So when Hardy was coming from one century to another, he is incredibly insecure of the approaching century. All right. So, and he just wants to go back to the era which was there pre-industrialization. So this era he's not very used to, and this is also a poem about how a person can change and whether a person can well adapt to new changes, and how it is very difficult for old people to adapt to new changes in life. And that is why, and as he is a poet, he has beautifully penned it down in his poem. So when he is writing Darkling Thrush, obviously we are not going to expect a very jubilant, a very ecstatic poem out of a person who is in such state of mind. All right, so that is why the poem is like that. So you have 4 stanzas in the poem, and these 4 stanzas, it is having a thorough pessimism throughout. And the title, as I was saying, the title is The Darkling Thrush. Now let us understand the title very nicely. Darkling, what does it mean? It means in darkness or of the darkness. Okay, so here is this word darkness, which can be understood in several ways. Or I may say that this word darkness has several meanings. Okay, there are several branches of the same word. Okay, one darkness is, you must remember that in the first stanza we were talking about the weakening eye of the day. Now this weakening eye of the day is the sun that is going down the horizon, the sun that is setting. Now as the sun is setting, what is happening all around? It is getting dark and darker, which is common and a daily phenomenon. It happens daily. So one very superficial way of understanding the title is that darkling thrush, meaning the thrush, the little bird. This is a bird which is commonly found in England. So this thrush, which was singing in the time of dusk. Okay, so when it is approaching, when the darkness is approaching, the thrush that was there. So the poem is titled after That is a very superficial way of understanding the poem's title. Okay, that goes number one. Number two is the darkness. This can be related to the death and despair. Okay, the death of century and the despair that is emerging out of it. Okay, so the poet has found no source of happiness. The poet has found no source of hope, and that is why it is dark for him all around. He finds no freshness, he finds no light. Nowhere can he find any light. And also remember that this is a very icy, unwelcoming, desolate landscape that he is talking about. Thomas Hardy, I must give you another information here that Thomas Hardy, he generally used to write on the British countryside, meaning whatever stories, the novel, he was a novelist also. Though he considered himself poet first, and he said that for financial reasons he had to write novels. And one important and a very famous novel you must have read or you must have heard a story about is that Far From the Madding Crowd. It's a very famous novel of Hardy. And all these novels and poems are mainly set at the backdrop of British countryside, okay, English countryside. And here also in this poem, you see a countryside only, and this landscape is not a very cheerful, happy landscape. It's springtime and flowers all around, greenery, everything. No, okay, it is icy. There is frost, spectre grey, and it is unwelcoming. It is desolate. No one is there all around, and mankind don't live here. Mankind haunt here. So, quote unquote, haunt. All right, this haunt word is very, very important because this poet, he himself feels that people are as good as dead. People are lifeless here. In this new century that's coming, people, they do not have that same vigor, they do not have the same fervor. He talked, right? Remember, as fervorless as I. So he talks, he refers to mankind and talks about them that they don't live, they haunt nigh, haunted nigh. Okay, so for such a poet, you must understand the kind of darkness that's prevalent all around. So in darkness, darkling thrush. So that kind of darkness. So the thrush who has the audacity to sing in such a kind of darkness is a protagonist of our poem. Okay, so the darkling thrush. So that's second way of understanding the title, the darkling thrush. And also our thrush, however small and however thin out of hunger or illness and however aged bird it might be, this bird is a rebellious, strong bird. So you all must take lessons from a very small living being who can give you immense hope even at the time of death, even at the time when he knows that maybe his death is very nearby. Maybe this might be the last night of his life. But still he sings because that is the way he looks towards his own life. He is not as pessimistic as the poet is. Okay. Now, the third way how we can look this title, The Darkling Thrush, is it is winter. It is December 1900 when the poem was written. Okay. December is a very, very cold month. And that too, it is England. Okay. It's not in the tropics. It's England, high up in the globe. So their winters are ruthless. It's extremely cold. And December last days, you remember winter's dregs? It's not just December middle, it's the last few days of December, which is chilly, extremely, extremely cold. So, in such winter, how will the nights be? It is not a simple darkness of a normal summer month. Okay? It is, this darkness is even more black. It is more bleak. This darkness is much intense, more intense than how it is. Okay? So, this darkling, this is another branch of the meaning of the word darkling. So this thrush, when he is singing, this thrush is singing when the century has died, when the day has died, and when the season has died. The winter, the month is also ending. So at the at the edge of so many deaths, the bird is singing. And you must understand that how powerful and strong, mentally strong bird it must be. Okay? And the poet is unable to procure any kind of strength from this bird. He started at a negative tone, he ended at the negative tone. He might say that maybe this bird is having the knowledge of some source of happiness, but I am not aware. I am unaware of that. So he says that, but he ends in a same pessimistic tone. He says, I am unaware. I do not know. Okay, so now, so what do you learn from the poem? What do you understand? You learn that, this is just the difference in perspective. The poet and the poet and the bird, both of them are in the same landscape, both of them are in the same place, but it is just their way of looking towards life, way of looking towards the new century. Maybe for this bird, it's a weather beaten bird. The bird thinks, for the bird, maybe this is the last few minutes of his life. But for the bird, it has chosen to be happy. It has chosen to live these last few minutes happily. He's singing, it is singing an even song. It's wonderful, isn't it? So it is as if the bird is looking towards its life like the glass half full. But for the poet, the glass is always half empty. Why? Because he cannot search for any source of happiness. And we learn from the poem that happiness is always within us. We should never depend on any external sources of happiness. This hope, this happiness, this newness or freshness, everything, it should all come from within. But we all understand it must have been difficult for the poet because he was aged at that time. He was not ready to adapt to the changes of life. He was not very. It was not easy for him to do that. So that is the poem for you. Here I just sum up briefly the whole poem. See, the whole poem has some important images which you must remember, because such images, the questions come, okay, poetic devices, these are the ones that you must remember while you are doing a poem. You have to decode all these things and scan everything, only then you'll be able to appreciate a poem better. So in the first stanza, we have come across the word, the images like that of the weakening eye of day, which I have told you earlier also, the winter's dregs, which tell you that how the last few days of winter and the last few days of winter are talked of here, and the frost is all white. It is very white, and it is looking like that of ghost. It's ghastly all around. And then again you have the image of broken musical instrument, which will give you the sensation of disharmony. You feel that something is not in order. Okay, it is not in the proper way as it should be. And then all the mankind that haunted nigh. Again, as I told you, that the poet considers that people are all lifeless. They do not have the energy that they used to have. They do not have same creativity. They're all rushing towards industrialization. They're all becoming machines. They lack the creative streak in them. They do not have it in them any longer. And then the second stanza has further discussions on how each and every natural features, each and every geographical features are looking like they have connection with death. Okay, centuries corpse, the crypt, the death lament. So these are all having connotations of death. And this is the way it is because the poet is looking at them like that. And then the seed of new life is all shrunken and dry. Again, this is an image which is very sorrowful, an image which is very depressing. It's a seed which has lost its power to germinate. In this century, according to the poet, there is no hope for new germination, no hope for birth, no hope of birth. And then the word fervorless. It is very, very important in this poem. He is without any passion, he is without any intensity, and he feels that all the people around, they have all sought household fires, they have all gone inside, they lack vivacity, they're all without the fervor. Then we have this sudden arrival of this thrush who will change the atmosphere in a very short span of time. This thrush comes and it sings in a beautiful, in more than beautiful, it sings with all its force. He gives everything he has into its song. And you must remember, this is not nightingale, this is not springtime. This bird is singing in cold, dark, bleak, desolate winter. And this bird has to be extremely revolting, rebellious to do so. And again, in the last stanza, the poet, he comes back to his general state of mind. He says that I do not find any cause of carolings. I do not find any cause of such happy good night air that the bird he thinks he is in. All I can see is no hope all around, is hopelessness all around. But this bird has some kind of blessed hope. I know not from where he gets that information, but maybe there is some source of hope, some source of cheerfulness which he knows of, and I am unaware. So that is the whole poem for you. I have discussed the poem line by line. I have told you the meaning of the title, and I have touched all the discussions that had to be done, all the themes that had to be discussed with you. So I hope if you go back and see my other two videos, you'll be able to answer all the questions that is going to come on the chapter. So best of luck and thank you so much. Also, before I leave, let me tell you that please subscribe to my channel, and if you have any doubt, any query, anything that you want to ask, then please write in the comment section. I'll be glad to answer that. Okay? Bye. Have a good day.